Welcome back to the Beyond the Sidelines podcast. This week we spoke Corona. Unfortunately, that's all there is in the news at the moment, and unfortunately, all of our favourite sports have been cancelled. We did speak about that, but we also spoke to Mason Cox from the Collingwood Magpies. Unfortunately, he won't be playing a game for a while, but we still spoke to him anyway. He talked to us about how he's isolating, how he's doing all that stuff. Make sure you listen into it, and let's get on with the rest of the episode.
There's scenes here at Perry Park.
Chris Lynn has taken the wild thing and sent him.
Oh, bang, yeah!
I go to work every morning. I work quite close to my house.
Very close.
Yeah, it's literally 2 minutes walk. And there's this mini miner. You know, we all have experienced mini miners. They're just like the bullies in the playground for birds, I guess. You can say they're just horrible little birds. And we've got one that's like sitting up the top of the highest tree next to my work. And walking through there every day, it's always like a sort of you're looking around waiting for this guy to attack you. Like, because he's a swooper.
What's his name?
I haven't named him, but I could.
Why have you not named him?
It's going to have a menacing name.
Yeah,
Brutus.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go, Brutus.
I was going to say Bruce. We're on the same train.
There was a bird that
Bruce. That's
Yeah, it's a
not
shark
quite-
from Nemo.
There was a bird that used to swoop in the suburb I lived in. I'm not going to mention it. And it used to get really annoying. It used to be, I was walking home with my boater on. This is back in my BBC days.
Rhymes with Herwood.
Jesus, that's getting a bit close there.
A little
mate.
bit, mate.
And like I used to just take it on.
Yeah, no,
It got to the
Well, you had
stage.
the boater. That's pretty much like a wooden hat.
Oh, it is. It's a helmet. But it got
Yeah.
to the stage where I just went, you know what? This is my city.
I own this
This is my
suburb
area.
that rhymes with Herwood.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I used to go, you can't control me. You don't get to dictate my life anymore, Mr. Magpie.
But yeah, I mean, that was a magpie.
Never lose your dinosaur.
Never lose your
See,
dinosaur.
now-
Never lose your dinosaur.
Now, mini miners, they might be small. I mean, hence the name, but they really they put up a good fight.
They pack a punch.
They
under?
really do. They bully like big birds, like I was going to say koalas.
Yeah. Jeez, great.
Kookaburras
Drop bears.
Drop bears, yeah.
and parrots and stuff like that. But
Gusman.
they are bullies.
Gusman, what actually happened though,
So
mate?
I was walking to work this morning, actually. It was this morning, started at 7. And this thing was up bright and early, and it decided to swoop me. But today was its unlucky day.
Early bird
because
gets the gas.
Wait, it decided
Yeah.
to just swoop Angus. Too.
Yeah.
Well,
He's just
no,
like,
he had his
there he
eyes.
is.
Yeah.
There he is.
Locked in. This is a
Well, once
common
again-
theme from last week.
Well,
everything's out to
I
get
do
you,
feel
mate.
like I get unfairly targeted by birds and
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 humans.
air rifles. And I was walking to work this morning, and this thing came after me once again. It's done it a few times, and I decided to fight back. You know what? I put up a hand. I put up my hand, swaying it over my head or whatever, swiping it over my
Swatting.
head.
Do we need
Swatting,
to contact
that's a
the
good.
RSPCA?
I don't know. He's probably not in very good shape now because I absolutely collected him.
But Gusman, do you think
I smacked that bird in the face,
Oh,
and it would have
mate.
hurt because
Why?
well, it kept assaulting me. So
Look,
you know,
it's
I'm not gonna.
It's not in the self-defense booklet that if a bird tries to sweep you, you can hit it.
Wait, we do have to mention we are not for pro
We are
animal cruelty.
not pro
Unless-
animal cruelty. No,
unless-
no. I'm going to cut you off there. We're not for it.
No, it's but Gusman, will that bird ever?
Oh, he bounced back up.
Ugh.
He's a fighter. He bounced straight back up and went back into his hidey hole or
So
his.
what's the point of the story
his
if
nest.
the bird's still going to annoy you?
I'm just saying, I was happy that today I was able to collect him, and maybe he'll think twice
This is
the next
episode
time
one,
he
mate.
tries and swoops me.
This is like in Family Guy
Good show.
when Peter fights the chicken.
yeah.
That's that.
Anyway, another story from this week. Gusman, question for you, mate. This is a question.
Yeah.
How many times does your car have to break down before you go, maybe I should spend the $30 or whatever it is
That's a bit
to
more
get
than
it fixed? Oh, no,
Bit
the
more than
bumper.
that.
Your bumper's
My
$30.
bumper's $30.
One time, actually.
One time? Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair
yeah,
enough. Well,
yeah.
let me transport you, Gusman, into this story world where I reminisce and tell you about the 2 times I had to jumpstart Campbell's car in the space of 3 days. Now, Campbell,
Those are pretty good numbers, by the way,
they are.
as far as numbers go.
They are. Very good numbers. Anyway, I was living in my suburb, which again, I'm not going to mention.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting there, I just got back from a run because I'm elite.
Well, I called you, and it was just... was like, mate, you sound like you're on a run. You're like, yeah, I am.
Breathing heavy.
Yeah.
It was a long 1K.
Mm.
No, I'm kidding. It was a bit longer than that because
It was 500 meters.
I am elite.
Elite.
Anyway,
Up and down the hallway.
actually, did you see that? There's a,
Quarantine up and down the hallway.
Yeah, pretty much.
there's a guy in France who ran, I think it was something like 60,000 or 30,000 laps of his balcony to run a marathon.
Do you
That's
track
pretty
it?
good.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
and it's like a red, like,
On
I've seen,
Strava.
I've seen
Yeah.
people like track it and like around the house, and it's like this red line just going like zig, zig, all around the house.
It wouldn't really
pretty
work.
good.
But anyway, I got back from my training and Campbell called me and said, mate, I'm stuck. St. Lucia, right next to uni at the Domino's, that we all know far too much.
It's a dangerous area.
Very common.
And
Very familiar.
And I had to go and be the good Samaritan I am and come save you, mate.
My knight in shining armour, you are, mate.
It was about a 15-minute drive too.
Oh, you poor thing. How many times have I driven you there?
I'm just saying, you owe me.
I do.
And it
I
was-
bought you a frozen
Pepsi
Pepsi
from
today.
KFC.
Yeah.
I do want to try
Don't say I
a
don't get you anything.
frozen raspberry. Apparently, they
It
are
was
quite
very good.
Creaming soda. I'm a
But-
big fan.
Well, you had to do it for me earlier in the week too. I was leaving yours.
Yeah, you were leaving mine, and well, Jessica did it, my sister,
Mhm.
to be fair. But still, your car, poor track record,
Mm.
Al, and that's not to mention his
It's a good
bumper.
car too.
Your bumper, it drags along the ground, like
Well,
literally.
it's not the bumper itself. It's the plastic cover underneath the bumper.
And
Still.
but I mean it's been doing that for 4 months, 3
Probably.
months.
Probably, yeah.
It's quite.
So-
It's quite funny because
Since the Super Bowl,
It was
I think.
since New Year's, actually.
New Year's, God.
Yeah.
it's quite funny because I don't see you coming when he comes to pick me up.
No.
I hear you.
Yeah. You messaged me that today. I said I'm around the corner. I wasn't driving on my phone. On my phone while I was driving. But you said, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Another classical
Yeah.
Finn joke.
Mm.
But it was really awkward when I came to St. Lucia to jumpstart your car because there was a car parked in front of him.
Mm.
So I had to jumpstart his car side by side.
Mm.
And now I think there was about a matter of centimetres between his car and my car. And he was
Inches.
going, mate, you got plenty of room.
Everything's a matter of centimeters, really.
You got plenty
if you
of room.
break it down.
And even when that car in front of you did move and I decided to nosedive in,
Yeah.
remember, I came really close there as well. And you said, don't worry, I have my leg in front to stop the car if I needed to.
That's a good idea.
No, I said I'm keeping my ear as if it's going to help because it's not going to help at all.
That was a Gussie comment, mate. That really was.
It
Not to
wasn't.
offend you,
Ah.
Gusman,
No,
but that
it
was.
wa-
I
it
mean,
it was a
much
joke.
offense taken.
It was a joke.
It was, yeah, well, safety's not a joke, CJ. Safety's not a joke. Anyway,
Identity theft's not a
so
joke.
it's basically getting to the stage where, mate, it's negligence.
Mm.
if you don't
Tuesday.
start
Tuesday.
jump-starting your
I
car.
booked it. Tuesday.
Fixing your car.
Well, I'm pretty sure,
There you
aren't
go.
you supposed to take your car for a service every year?
You're supposed to,
Mm.
Angus. You're
Yeah.
supposed to.
Yeah, it's a new year.
New
I'm
year,
gonna
new
get it
me.
done.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
boys, let's get into some sport. We've got no Fast Five to touch on this
No, we
week
don't.
because sadly,
There's nothing.
there's nothing
no
to talk
sport
about, Gusman.
Coronavirus.
Obviously, first and foremost, we hope.
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus. Corona.
Nice.
Please don't sing.
Can you sing more for me, mate?
No,
There we go.
I'm all
who's that
sunged
song by?
out. I don't know.
Sunged out.
Yeah, I'm all sunged out.
Sung out. Gee whiz. That's,
Nice.
add
I'm
that-
inventing new words, okay?
Add that to the
Jesus
collection. Anyway,
Christ.
first and foremost, we do hope that everyone is safe and healthy at the moment. Obviously,
Wash your hands.
and practice safe distancing too.
We are.
1.5 meters. Did you see Scott McDonald? He posted on
I
his
did see
Instagram
that.
last night and it shared around a little bit.
Mm.
He was getting pretty angry at some of the citizens around Brisbane who weren't practicing
Brisneyland.
Brisneyland, as I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Still, it's
Bris Vegas.
That's what
Okay.
we go with.
That's our thing.
I'm trying to get
We've
that
got to have
trend.
a thing.
Sorry.
I'm trying to get
sorry.
it trending. Anyway, but this week, Campbell, take us away, mate. Lead into the interview.
Yeah, we have Mason Cox from Collingwood Magpies.
He's
Big boy.
He's literally our biggest interview yet.
Yes.
I reckon he's twice.
211
He's probably
centimeters?
twice my size.
Probably.
You think he's twice
What?
your size?
Almost, no, actually, 1.5.
Are you
He's
1
probably
meter?
he's probably like 1.5. No, he's not.
He's 211 centimeters.
Yeah, that'd make me 100 and.
Here we go.
5 centimeters.
5.5. Yes.
Gee,
It's like the size of my leg.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, very
yeah.
uncomfortable way to lead into
Yes.
this interview.
But,
But again,
he's a Yank.
he is a Yank. I
he's
think that's
Texan.
the big takeaway.
And that's Dallas.
That's Dallas. Yeah,
As
we
I
were
say.
watching that before.
We were.
The Office, good episode.
Great episode.
But he was a really good chat, boys. Really good chat. He seems quite humble.
Very humble.
I think because
he's a lovely guy.
He's come from nowhere, and I think with that you see a bit of humbleness, and he's got something to prove week to week. You know, you see athletes like Patrick Dangerfield, even Gary Ablett Jr., guys like that who have been there and done it, who maybe can afford not to be complacent, but don't have to worry about their spots week to week. So, again, great guy, great chat, Mason Cox.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Mason. Collingwood Magpies player, full forward, ruckman extraordinaire. How you
American.
doing? American. That's the most interesting part. How you doing?
Yeah, doing really well, fellas. Just ticking along in isolation, but we're getting through. How about you boys?
Yeah, good. I like to think. Anyway, but how, you speak isolation. Sorry. How's it going?
Yeah, it's unique. It's kind of weird because I feel like I've already done it this year. I had the 2 eye surgeries, and I've just been pretty much a month and a half inside. So it's almost I'm looking at almost 4.5 months at the moment. But now I've got everything kind of set up for a gym inside, and then luckily we're still able to go out and run on your own. So you can at least go outside still, which would be good. So still get to run in every single day and then do a bit of weights inside.
Yeah, sweet as, mate. But I saw on your Twitter this morning, your neighbour started playing the clarinet, starting to learn it. How annoying's that been? And that's going to be a familiar sound across the next few weeks, I'd have to say.
It's going to be dreadful. I found out actually apparently it's a recorder. I don't know. But apparently you guys in Australia all learn recorder third grade or something.
Yeah. I think we did.
Everyone's terrible at it. But I think I saw the person, and I think there was like an old man. So I'm a bit kind of like, I thought maybe it should be okay if it's a little kid. Like I'll let it slide. But he's had a fair bit of time on his hands. So
I've got hot cross buns down, Pat.
See, I didn't. I think we did it for about 7 years during school, and I could not tell you one note or anything. So. Anyway, mate, as an athlete at the moment, how do you approach training and maintaining your fitness? Because there's so much uncertainty at the moment about when you're going to return to the field.
Yeah, it's a very unique situation. I think everyone's a bit trying to play catch up at the moment, trying to figure out, I guess, the time frame that all this is going to happen, because we don't even know when we're going to play games again. So it's a bit of sit and wait and see at the moment, but hopefully in the next few days we'll kind of get a bit more things locked down with the IFL and start getting on some agreements with whenever we want to come back. But a lot of it is dependent on just how long this is going to last. And unfortunately, the only way you can kind of tell that is through time. So it's going to take a little bit of time and everything else for everyone to go through the whole process to get through this. But at the moment, it's just still everyone's saying, look, there's still premiership up for grabs at the end of the year, no matter how it looks like. So we're just going to keep trying to stay in shape as much as possible through these unique times and just get through it. And then hopefully whenever we get back as a group, everyone's kind of done their part and we can kind of get back into games pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, were you questioning the timing at all from the AFL? They played one round of footy. Do you think that was a good idea to cut it after one round, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, they went to us as players, and we voted on it, and we voted unanimously yes for it. So, and there's not really any, I guess, blame really to put on anyone, because everyone that was involved was pretty much agreed to it. So, from their standpoint, I mean, if someone says they want to play and you guys are going to be able to play, then why wouldn't you? So it was a very, very unique situation, obviously, being no fans or anything there. But it was a weird day, to say the least. But I think in, hopefully, like 10, 15 years' time, I'll be like, that was a really, really cool experience. It's very unique within its own right and every single thing. So I'm glad I actually got to experience it. Wish it would have been fans there, obviously. But I think whenever time goes on, it'll be kind of a cool experience to look back on.
Yeah, well, that round one was a little bit bittersweet for me. I am a Dogs fan, so it was tough watching it on TV.
Hold back the tears, CJ.
It was very sad. And, you guys had a really unique team song at the end of it. You go out there and play for an hour tackling each other, and then you go into the change rooms and you're keeping your social distancing. It's good to see, but it was very interesting. I liked it, though.
Yeah, we were told we had to keep the meter or whatever apart, because the day before Richmond did the huddle and got around each other, but then we were told to do the social distancing. So after the game, whenever you have a win like that, everyone's obviously up and about, and we as soon as we got into through the doors, all the staff and admin were clapping and hyping everybody out. So everyone was up and about, and then the boys just were like, all right, well, I guess we're just gonna stay a meter away from each other and just sing the song. This is a bit weird, but we're gonna get into it like crazy. It's almost it's very Australian, I thought. It's just everyone was so hyped up. They're like, this is the weirdest thing ever, but we're just going to make the best out of a terrible situation, so why not?
Hey, that's what you got to do.
You got to stay safe.
Exactly. A lot of elbows going around,
Exactly.
elbow touching and whatnot. It's good fun to see.
A lot of questionable dance moves along the way, too.
Hey, mate, but was it hard to, I guess, get motivated for round one? Running out in front of an empty MCG, that's pretty daunting and pretty freaky.
Yeah, I don't think the motivation aspect of it was too tough. I mean, at the end of the day, we've all spent 4 or 5 months just of training at the club and stuff, and plus you got to add the off season and everything else. So I don't think it's really tough as much to get motivated whenever it comes to that, because you have put in such a long out spend of effort and work that once actually the day comes to finally of round one to be able to show everyone on television, everyone out there, like kind of what you've been working on. It's everyone's hyped up already, So the fans do help though. It's all part of the arena and the whole experience and everything else. And to run out there and have the banner you run through, which is something that's very odd still to me, but and then the people around and everyone screaming, everyone's so excited is very unique. But I think given the circumstances, it was definitely a different outlook on the whole thing. And I remember at one point during the fourth quarter, I'm sitting there and one of the Bulldogs had marked it out and they're about 40 yards out having a set shot, and I looked at the guy next to me and you could have had a conversation on the sideline and I was in the middle of the ground. You could have heard the people on the sideline chatting. It was that quiet. And it was just kind of like, I looked at the other guy and go, this is the weirdest thing I've ever been a part of, like the eeriest feeling I've ever had. And it was just kick the goal, nothing, like just silence the whole time. Because the game was pretty much over at that point. So it was very unique circumstances. And I don't know, at the same time, it was pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I wish fans could be there. But we spoke to Link McCarthy from the Brisbane Lions a few weeks ago, and I guess this is just a testament of how quickly this thing's moved, because we asked him the question, how would you feel about playing in an empty stadium? And I'm sure for, North Melbourne fans and stuff like that, it wouldn't be too much of a difference. But, he said, he didn't really know yet because obviously it has just accelerated.
Well, he didn't want to.
He didn't want to play in front. But how do you feel, I guess, about it and playing in front of, those empty crowds?
Obviously, we'd rather have the fans there. That's kind of the whole reason we play the sport, is the entertainment aspect of it. And there's no better feeling than walking out and, kicking a goal and everyone going crazy on the sideline and just going to get that energy of whether it be a big play or something like that, which just you can't talk to the person next to you because the whole place is rumbling. So it's very different, I guess, to play without crowds and everything else. But no, like whether the fans are there or not, like we still want to entertain them. Like, yes, we need to do our social, socially the right thing by making sure no one else spreads this disease. And the best way is not to do these big group things together with thousands of people. So, I mean, if we can still entertain fans through the television and through AFL's live app and all that, like I think it's part of our duty as AFL players to go about and do that. So, whether there's fans there or not, obviously we'd love to have them there. But at the same time, if we can somehow entertain them in some way, shape, or form, then that's our job and our duty.
Now, there's been talks of different ways to see out the rest of the season. The AFL has mentioned that a 12-week season might commence, maybe a premiere without finals. What are your thoughts on all these different possibilities?
Oh, there's a million different things getting thrown around at the moment, but I don't know. It's going to be a unique year, and I think we've all accepted the fact that this is going to be different than any other year we'll play. And who knows if it'll last for just 1 year, or multiple years, or whatever it's going to be going down the line. Because you've got to look at guys from the TH or the NAB Cup, whatever it is called now. Coming through, they're going to be affected by this. All the players are going to be affected by having a shortened season. If we can fit 22 games in, whether it be going 2 games a week, we don't really know. I think anything's really on the table, and we're just going to have to see where it goes. It's just going to be an interesting chat between the AFL and the players to try to come to an agreement of what's going to be best for the game. And I know those conversations are being had at the moment, but it's interesting. I think with the change that we did do for round one with the 16-minute quarters, that was actually pretty cool. I actually really enjoyed that. I think it was a little bit more energy to make bigger plays and stuff along those lines. I know Australian sport is more usually a defensive thing like cricket, where you just kind of want to wear the other team down, but it was kind of a unique, I guess, experience for us to play 16-minute quarters where I guess maybe you're not running as much, therefore you might have a little bit more energy to make that one big play for the game, whatever it may be.
You're not running as much. Already sold it, mate. Already sold it. Now, it was a weird week because it was pretty much the only sport on around the world. And we saw a lot of Americans. Pat McAfee, he was pretty notable.
Love Pat McAfee.
He's a very funny guy.
Yeah.
He's very funny.
And he got on top of it and started, talking about professing his love for Australian rules football.
Well, as a former punter, it's kind of understandable.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It makes sense. But, mate, how much of a smile, I guess, did that bring to your face, seeing Americans get behind it? And do you think it's a sport that Americans could, learn to love going forward?
I messaged Pat back and forth. I think he was going to have me on, but I'm not sure if it's going to go through now that the season's going to be canceled. Or sorry, not canceled, but delayed. But I was messaging back and forth, and I don't know if the time is now or the time's later on or whatever it is, but there's a huge market in the U.S. You can't say that just by numbers wise. If you take to the U.S., there's 328 million people over there, and there's 32 million people in Australia. So take a little bit, give or take, there's 10 times as many people in America as Australia. If we can capture 10% of viewers there, then they'll make up all of Australia. Not even all of Australia follows footy. So if you just capture 5% of the people in the U.S., whether it be punting, whether it be playing at different times to be able to match their prime time, whatever it is, if you can capture a little bit of that audience, then there's going to be a massive amount of money to be able to be made. And I think in this whole industry, the fact that now it's a tough time for the AFL, tough time for all sports, but the fact that we were the only ones on is going to be a huge leverage point for us. And if we can get back, I think before all these other sports and stuff come back, and people are they're absolutely just want something to bet on, to watch something live sports, something just to take their time over, in the U.S. And people, whenever it came on for those 2 days, like my brother and my family back home, they're like, hey man, like St. Kilda's playing, I don't know who they're playing on the weekend, but they're like, I think I was playing so-and-so, who should I bet on? And they don't even know anything about footy. Like they couldn't even name a single player, a team, or anything. Like people just want to watch it and want to start betting on it so they can like start having a bit of, back and forth with their friends or their family, whoever it is, to have a bit of a competition. So if we can somehow tap into that market, and like that's something I think I'm going to work on over the next, I don't know, however long we're in isolation, is to try to find a way to sales pitch this thing to the U.S. and see if we can somehow recuperate some of the money that we've lost through this whole experience through maybe trying to get back before any other sport in the world.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And Pat, he also compared you to the former NFL wide receiver Randy Moss. Man, how much, how does that feel for you? That's pretty high praise.
I don't have the swagger that Randy Moss has, but no, yeah, it was good. I mean, he's got no idea. He's just kind of first getting into it at the moment, so he's just kind of hyped to see an American playing a sport that is so foreign, and the fact that there's only one of them in the league, I guess, makes it easy for him to choose which person he wants to follow, I guess. So it was pretty cool. He was loving it, man. And I think it's such a unique sport, man. Like you sit there and compare it to anything else in the world, and it's uncomparable. Like you can sit there and say it's a mix of everything, but I don't think there's another sport in the world where there's guys walking around with mullets everywhere and just terrible tattoos, wanting to beat the hell out of each other with no pads on. Like it's just.
Hey,
so
don't disrespect the mullet, all right?
Yeah.
Don't disrespect the mullet.
No, I'm all for it. If I could grow one, I would.
Yeah, me
I've
too.
seen pictures of people trying to crop a mullet on me. I ain't pretty.
Actually,
but no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to mention the St Kilda. They played the Kangaroos North Melbourne last week. So guys, I know more than an AFL player. So you beauty. Sorry, Mason. That was just a quick brag, mate. Sorry.
You know more than the guy who probably has had the least experience in the AFL. In the AFL system. Congratulations, man.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah. Take it what you can, mate. Take it what you can.
I mean, if speaking about US sports, NFL, what about basketball? I mean, you played a little bit of basketball in your youth. What was that like? You played for Oklahoma State University, of course. What was that like?
Yeah, it was unique, man. I think my journey to the AFL through basketball and everything else is it's a bit of a one in a million chance. It was very unique. Like I played soccer growing up, and then went to university and just was a normal student. Shared a dorm room that was maybe 3 or 4 meters wide by 3 meters long, and could barely get 2 beds in there. And shared that room with another person and lived on a shared. There's probably 120 people per floor for 10 floors. It was all this massive shared dorm. So. I lived the broke college life on ramen noodles for 2 or 3 years, and then moved out with some friends and stuff. And then I was fortunate enough, I just started playing basketball. I'd never picked up basketball in my life. Just was playing at the local rec gym because everyone else that was on that floor, all 80 or 100 of us, wanted to kind of get together and do something. So basketball was the thing that kind of brought us all together. So just started playing, given the fact that I was freakishly tall. And they're like, yep, I don't care if you've ever touched a basketball, just come in, get rebounds, throw it out to someone else. And I was like, all right, cool. So just started playing there, and then got better and better the more I played. And then had one of the women's managers ask me if I'd be keen to kind of help them out, which was something my brother had done 4 years before I went to school there. And they asked me to help out there. And then from that, we just did like a little, we called ourselves the dream team. We just kind of played against the women's team and ran plays of the opposition they would play that week without them knowing, I guess, exactly of every single little thing we're going to do. So did that, and then the men's team saw me playing, asked me if I'd be interested in joining them. And I mean, the men's team, I think it's tough to describe this to people because they don't quite understand how big NCAA and college basketball is back home. It's like every single week you got 2 games a week, and you're getting private jets chartered from one side of the country to another, and everything is included. Like they just completely take care of you, and they all live together, and we get food catered and all this kind of stuff. So it's a full on program. And they asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And got into that, man. And then about 3 years later, just kind of 2.5 years or 2 years of really just riding the bench. And at times I was sitting behind the bench for the first year and a half, and couldn't even get a gig on the bench because they put the weights coach and a few other people ahead of me. And then eventually we got a few injuries, and I got my opportunity and made the most of it, kind of a bit like AFL. And then I was fortunate enough to start playing as a sixth man coming off the bench and played in the NCAA tournament a few times and stuff. And got some really unique experiences out of it. And then the AFL somehow plucked me out of that and asked me if I want to come over here.
Well, I guess you impressed so much that you were invited to that international combine, which is that sort of pathway to AFL recruitment. So, I mean, what was it like being invited to that and actually being able to be picked up by an AFL side?
To be honest, it was very weird. I had no idea what AFL was. I'd never heard of Melbourne at this point. I'd just finished basketball, was about to finish my mechanical engineering degree at school, and had our media guy come in. And like once you kind of finish NCAA with March Madness is like the last tournament, you kind of just stop going to the training and everything because you're not going to be part of that team anymore. So the media guy just hit me up and said, "Hey man, you want to come in?" I said, "Yeah, is everything all right?" He goes, "Yeah, I just want to run something by you." So he ran this email by me, and it was, "Yeah, do you want to go to this combine in Los Angeles? I think you'd be a good kind of person for this because of your difference in being able to go from soccer to basketball and then maybe going to AFL and just being able to transfer sports and skills." And so we Googled it. We had to Google, well, what is AFL? And it came up with AFL's biggest hits, and there's a bunch of people getting knocked out. And I said, "Yeah, this looks pretty fun." So we ended up just going and said, "Stuff it. Yeah, I'm going to go to LA for free. I'll expect a paid trip. What's the worst that can happen?" Had a few drinks with my friends after the whole experience. And after, running around doing a few jumps and everything else, they were pretty interested in. I was like, freaking hell, like, what do I do? I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, this is such a unique thing, half a world away. I never even knew anything about it. Didn't think anything was going to come of it. I was really there for the more of a free trip to LA. And then, something came out of it, that's for sure. And Collingwood and a few other teams were definitely the ones that were interested and came back. My brother became my agent for about 2 weeks and then sorted out a trip to Melbourne, a place we'd never been, never heard of, and got to have the full AFL experience for about 2.5 weeks and then came back and decided to sign with Collingwood and quit my job.
Well, I mean, are there any skills that you brought over from those sports, playing basketball and football, that you've been able to apply to the AFL?
Yeah, I mean, I think from soccer, it's the whole aspect of just being able to kick something. Like you look at basketballers and they've never used their feet to be able to kind of kick anything or judge anything from that aspect. So I think that was probably the biggest thing from soccer, and the fact that the field was so big that you kind of had that endurance, athletic kind of build in the back of your mind, and be able to have it in your back pocket to be able to just run long distances. Because I think whenever I did the 2 or 3K time trial, it was at the LA Combine, I was one of the top people out of that, and I was also the tallest by far. So it was very unique, I guess, for someone that build to be able to run that far in a certain amount of time. So that was impressive for them for soccer. And then basketball was just the whole 360 thing. So you look at a rock contest and all the mids and everything, like the chaos that is inside of a contest after a stoppage. And I think that basketball sense of awareness of just everyone around you and where the holes are and where the gaps are to be able to get handball off is probably where that kind of comes in. So there's a bit of everything really, and you take a little things from here and there and try to apply them to your game. But it's probably the two most relatable sports outside to AFL.
But mate, you just mentioned it. You quit your job. Now, why did you do that? What was the conversation like with your friends and family when you decided, I'm going to go down under and try the sport that I've just heard of?
Yeah, well, I worked 5 years to get this degree in engineering, mechanical engineering, and then got this job at ExxonMobil, which is probably one of the top jobs you can get out of university. For I think they're number one Fortune 500 top earning company in the world, or in the U.S. at the time. So really good job. And then the whole thing kind of happened. And I just remember whenever we were in Melbourne, I was talking to my brother, and I was chatting to him at St Kilda Beach actually, and just said, "Look, man, like, what do you think about the whole situation?" This is after we had a few contract offers, and he said, "Man, degree's never going to expire. You'll be able to go back and work a desk job whenever you want in your life. So this thing's not going to come back around whenever you're 30, 40 years old. So I think you just got to take it and run with it." So a bit of advice from the older brother, which was good. And just kind of ran with it and just thought, you know what, like, I had this thing. I'd moved all my stuff to Houston, had my apartment picked out and everything else. And then whenever I got back from Australia, I just literally gave him a call up and said, "Look, I've got 2 days to move this back to Dallas, and then I'm going to Europe for 2 months and just going to backpack around there and just live that hostel life for 2 months and then come back and move to Australia." So they were very like, "What the hell's AFL?" was probably the first question that people at ExxonMobil asked me. But there's one person actually that worked in Brisbane for a bit, so he had an idea of kind of what it was. And he was kind of one of the recruiters that recruited me. And he just said, "Look, man, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You just got to take it." Like, ExxonMobil's got thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of employees. But it's going to be, whether we have you or not, it's not going to change the whole, company. So go and make a career out of your own and see what you can do.
Yeah, sweet as, mate. And we saw a video just on YouTube just before that Collingwood posted. Now, when you came down under, your first AFL game was a North Melbourne game, and you were sitting with a former North Melbourne player. So was the plan always to play for Collingwood, or was there a few teams interested?
So there was the 5 teams that allowed. So they only allowed the 5 teams that came to the U.S. So they had Port Adelaide, Richmond, Collingwood, Fremantle, and North Melbourne were the 5 that sent representatives over to the U.S. at the U.S. Combine. So the way it worked was they said, look, we just want to, I guess, reward the people that came all over to the U.S. that are putting effort into this program. So you're the only ones that have access to this player. So it was, if anyone gave me a contract, it was all the same contract. So I wouldn't choose based on money. I'd choose on based on fit and which one you thought you fit best with. And so the first game I ever went to was out in Geelong, actually, of all places. And they're playing North Melbourne. And we sat there. I can't remember who we were sitting next to, but we went and watched the game, and they had to try to explain what the hell was going on. And North Melbourne lost the game, and Geelong, I don't know if you really know Geelong's theme song too well, but Geelong's theme song's pretty funny if you actually just listen to the lyrics. It's like a person that's third person down, all this kind of stuff. And we just couldn't help but laugh our way through the whole thing. It was absolutely ridiculous. Like, you have to play the music, but it's so funny. We just couldn't believe like how weird and wacky this whole thing was. And they gave us a meat pie at the first game. Wasn't great. It was cold, so we didn't enjoy that too much. There's a whole story behind that, but didn't enjoy that too much. But it was cool. Like, it was like such a weird aspect, and we just got to have a bit of VIP treatment. We walked through the rooms before like they were in there, and got to see like halftime and stuff, and talk to other coaches and whatnot, and kind of see how it all came together, and talk to a few players on the ground. And each team like kind of looked after me really well, and had a dinner with me, and then met a few players and met the coaches and stuff too. So it was. Like I said, it was a unique experience for a guy who was a walk-on at the college, basketball program to be somewhat wine to dine and red carpet halfway across the world in a place you've never been for a sport you never heard of was just such a unique experience. I mean, I remember the first day we landed, they interviewed us at AFL House, and they had a thing in the Herald Sun the next day of the paper, and me and my brother went to 7-Eleven and bought about 10 of them because we couldn't believe we were in a paper. It was just ridiculous. So we couldn't believe it, and we just lived it and said, you know what, we'll just enjoy it while it's around. Who knows what will come from it.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't sign for a team that gave me cold meat pies either, to be honest. I can see why you didn't sign for North Melbourne.
It was at Geelong Stadium, though.
Okay. All right, we can let North Melbourne live on that one. So why did you choose the Magpies then, I guess? Collingwood.
Yeah, so at the time, man, like there was a guy who's crazy enough. He's at Richmond now, and he moved to Richmond after the first year I was there. Named Craig McRae. So Craig McRae, Anthony Rocco is obviously a famous Collingwood player. Were the two that were kind of the development coaches that would look after me. So I met through all the teams and everything else. I met all the coaches that were going to be like my right hand man as far as trying to teach me this sport. So that was the main people that had to, I guess, sell me the idea of me coming to their club. Like, yeah, it's great to have a coach and everything else, but if I'm going to learn the game, I need to have like the people I, best can trust and best get along with. So Craig McRae and Anthony Rocco, who are still huge friends of mine, like some of the people I trust here the most, they were probably the best people I got along with, and just chatting to them back and forth about what they value and everything else, and kind of the way they taught and everything else kind of fit along the same way that I enjoyed it. So we got along quite well, and that was kind of the selling point that got me over the edge. And then a year later, I think a year or two later, that Craig McRae went to Richmond, and they started winning all their flags. And but Pabs has stayed there, and he's helped me through my ruck craft and through my kicking and everything else. He's been a great mentor through the years.
Yeah, mate, and talk us through your first few months of training at the Pies. Now, Nathan Buckley was your coach. Did you fit in straight away, or did it take you a bit of time to get up to speed?
Well, the first time I ever met Bucks and Eddie, I had no idea who the hell they were. So I didn't even know who was president, who was coach at the time. So it was a unique circumstance. But no, we got into training. I spent 2 months. So everyone went away. I got here in August 24th of 2014, I think it was. And we didn't make finals that year. So I had 2.5 months essentially of just training with coaches one-on-one, which was a massive thing. Like, it was so good for me, being a guy who'd never heard of it, to have so much, I guess, like hands-on training with all these different coaches to try to somewhat have a crash course of sink or swim of what AFL was. And got the 2 months in, got my fitness back, and because I was in a short distance kind of fitness with basketball, and got my long distance fitness back.
for AFL, and then went back and forth and stuff. And then the first training session I ever had, I was out with guys who had played AFL their whole life or before, like professionals at it, drafted and everything else, which was quite daunting. So it was unique times, but I think for myself, I was just like, you know what, stuff it. Like, I'm definitely not going to be up to scratch compared to a lot of these guys, but you can still kind of try to make an effort to show us what you're athletically capable of. So just did that, and I'll never forget the first practice I had was we go and do these handball drills, and everyone just kind of have a bit of a laugh, just chatting around and stuff. And the coach would handball it into you, and then you handball in a line, back and forth, and the coach would be on the end and handball into you. And Bucks was the coach that was handballing and handballed it to me, and I just learned handballing pretty much. So I tried to handball it to him back, and went about like a meter over his head, about 2 meters back, and he just looked at this look, and I'll never forget it in my life. He just kind of gave me this look like, what the hell have we just recruited? And it was fair. So we just kind of had a bit of a chuckle. I just kind of jogged behind and got the ball, just went to the back of the line. It's just not probably be our last handball for the day, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like. Well, 2 years later, you're at the MCG, April, you're at the Anzac Day game. That's your debut. What was that like? That's a pretty big game to be debuting in.
Yeah, it was massive. I mean, there was 85,000 people, and this is probably just kind of a year or two off the back of the Essendon saga. So I think they were still trying to get a bunch of Essendon fans and stuff there, but it was crazy, man. Like, it was unique in the sense of like being a year and a half of never like hearing of a game, and then coming over and playing in front of 85,000 to prove that your spot was there. And it was kind of tough at the same time, because you look at the guy who, obviously, every time you come into a team, there's always someone that has to come out. And the person at the time was Travis Cloak, who was a guy who was a legend of the club, who everyone loved, who was, a phenomenal football player, but was struggling at the time with a few things off field, I think. And it was like such a unique experience. And he was a guy that always kind of mentored me through the years. So it was this awkward kind of like, I don't know, in and out situation. And you kind of feel a bit guilty, I guess, at the same time, because this is one of the people that kind of helped you to get to the spot in the first place. And to have to take a spot was a bit of a weird feeling. So we ended up, it was quite daunting. Like, the whole experience was a bit crazy. I think my family probably knew before I did that I was debuting. And they flew all over and spent more time in the air than they did on the ground. And the whole thing was just all last second and just kind of crazy, and such a unique experience that I didn't even have time to even think about how crazy everything was that was going on. Like, I just kind of thought, you know what, I'm just going to play, and just the rest of it will take care of itself. So I pawned all that other stuff off to one of the guys at the club named Derek Hahn, who's the recruiter that recruited me, and he looked after the whole thing. So didn't have to stress about the family coming over or anything like that, and figure out flights and all that, and then just had to worry about playing. So walking out to the G and 85, 90,000 people, whatever it was on the day, and just that roar of Anzac Day is it's a unique experience I wish everyone in the world would be able to experience, because you don't really quite get it until, I think, that moment where you're on the field, in the center of the field, and everyone goes silent for the bugle play for a minute, and it's just the weirdest, eeriest like feeling for a person that's not from this country. And I mean, I couldn't even sing a word of either song of the national anthems, and I'm sitting there arm in arm with these other guys who are just, like, this is it. Like, this is the pinnacle of, besides the grand final, like, this is the biggest game of the year. So it was just this weird situation. I was shaking like crazy, man. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was fortunate enough, as the day played on, I think it was 3 or 4 or whatever it was minutes into the game, got the first goal and kind of got settled, and was able to, I guess, shake off some of the nerves. But yeah, the experience that I had going into that game to play as your first game and to have your first kick be a first goal, and the whole thing was just pretty magical, to be honest. It was, I remember getting back after the game, and it was weird walking down the street and people were, like, yelling out your name and stuff. And I thought, this is the weirdest thing ever. Like, who would have thought, like, this whole, like, experience would happen, And I remember we got to dinner with my family, and we all sat down and just were in shock. Like, we were just in disbelief of just how everything had played out, and how amazing that everyone got to experience it together. And by the end of the dinner, everyone was half asleep because they're all in different time zones, but they all enjoyed it, man. It was just it was a very surreal experience.
Yeah, definitely. And magic did happen on that day, I guess. You kicked your first goal, mate. You took a mark inside 50. Then talk us through what was going through your head, what was running through your head when you're lining up that shot. Again, 85 to 90,000 people at the G, trying to kick your first goal. How nervous are you?
I don't know if you can cuss on this, but I was shitting bricks, as I
Go
said.
for it.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's one of those moments. There's been 2-3 moments I think in my football career that you don't really have anything go through your mind. Like you so in the zone and so focused that you actually don't have any exterior things come into your head. Like it's all based on just, okay, like I've done this and this is what I'm supposed to do, and like this is kind of my, I don't know, like journey and what I'm supposed to do in this moment. And like it wasn't really like, oh, make sure you do the ball drop this way, make sure you do this or that. It was like, no, just kick the damn thing to the 2 big sticks. That's all you got to do. Like that's simple as you can be. Just do that and everything will be okay. And I remember I just like looking back on it now, like it's almost this whole kind of crazy universe. Is just everything kind of happens for a reason thing of even like getting that kick. Well, I came from a guy who I'd spent the 2 months and was like pretty much with my best friend at the club, Darcy Moore, who kicked the ball into me. He was like the guy who kicked it into me and also the guy that probably helped me through some of the toughest times in my first year and a half of living in this country, because he was kind of my go-to person who was drafted in the same year and was very mature for his age. And we hung out quite a bit and trained quite a bit together and everything else. And for him to kind of be the one that kicked it into me and then me kick the goal and that whole thing, and he was the one that gave me the jumper before the game. So it was this kind of whole, I don't know, everything kind of coming to this one peak, have this amazing experience. And it was such a unique thing, man. Like I'm so fortunate and blessed, I guess, to be able to have all these crazy experiences in life, and you just got to keep trying to do your best to be able to have more.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And how does Anzac Day compare to that famous prelim final against the Tigers at the G, where you kicked, was it 3 goals? And there were, of course, the USA chants post-match. Mate, how was that for an experience?
Yeah, it was just 3, but whenever people talk about it, I feel like the numbers get higher and higher. Someone told me 6 the other day, and I said, it's not even close. There's no way I kicked 6 all the day.
No, we do our research. We do our research.
Yeah. It's just funny. It's like whenever you say, you get BT on the audience crowd, he goes, oh, there's about 80,000 people, and then they never actually show the real number, because it's usually around like 20,000 off. So it's a unique one. I always like to play with the truth a bit, but compared to that 2018 final, man, yeah, that's it's a whole different experience of where you're at mentally, where you're at in your career and everything else. Like the whole Anzac thing was just kind of crazy. The fact that I just figured out what AFL was, and that was kind of my way of, I guess, announcing myself on the scene somewhat. But I think that 2018 prelim was just a bit of a statement to say, like, I'm kind of here and you better get used to it because I'm not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So, yeah, it was definitely an amazing day. Like I said, it was one of those experiences to definitely just be in the zone and nothing really comes into your head of any doubt or anything else. You just thought every time the ball comes to me, I'm going to clunk this and just embarrass the hell out of whoever the hell's around me. So, yeah, that 2018 was just a different experience and all. I think it was the week before we played GWS, and I played terrible, I thought, from my perspective and my standards. And I just wanted to come out and prove everyone wrong. I didn't even think about the fact that we might be in a grand final the next week or anything along those lines. I just wanted to kind of make a statement for the team and to put faith in everyone's eyes for me again. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go out and do that. So it was a unique experience, the USA chants and all that. I mean, my mom and dad were there for that game too. They've always been around for my biggest games, so maybe we can get them to move here and I'll have a better career. But yeah, the USA chant was just insane. Like, I didn't really, on the day, like I said, there's no exterior things. I didn't really notice it. I know it's kind of weird to say, but I was so focused on trying to get everyone on the same page and do my job that I didn't really get to soak in that experience. But best believe the next week when we played in the grand final, and after I kicked the first goal of the 2 that I kicked on the day, I took about 2 or 3 seconds and just really soaked it in, and just really enjoyed it for what it was, because I knew it was such a unique moment.
Well, I mean, you weren't Collingwood weren't really considered as title threats in 2018. How pleasing was it to be able to make it to the grand final?
Yeah, I think we finished 13th the year before, and then to go to a grand final was, I think we just had this shift of belief, really. It's just this kind of weird, it's a weird thing to try to describe. Not to say we didn't have belief before, but I think there was just this overall feeling that something special was going to happen. And obviously we didn't win the grand final, but I think throughout the whole year we had a guy come for Queen's birthday, Murray Lees, Murray and not Murray. He's a supporter, but sorry, Murray.
Oh,
came
I know the one. Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm getting my names mixed up. But Murray came and it was just an amazing experience of him who was going through this terrible time with MND. He was an ex-firefighter and everything else, and we brought his family around. And it was just this kind of somewhat surreal moment of like just realize kind of where you're at in life and how fortunate you are. And he definitely put things in perspective. And I think that was a massive thing for us going forward was the fact that like he kind of reminded us how fortunate life is and don't take it for granted because you just never know whenever something's going to change your whole life. So it was a unique experience. But he said something along the lines, I'm probably misquoting it 100%, but he said something along the lines of you're going to do something special this year. And that was kind of what we thought the rest of the year. We kind of put that up on the whiteboard every time before games and stuff, and just kind of gave us a reminder of what he was going through. And he was a mad supporter, a mad Collingwood fan, had all kinds of scrapbooks and everything else. And I still keep in contact with his family and stuff. And he's just he was an amazing person, a beautiful soul. And he kind of brought us back to reality and just thought, you know what, like this isn't going to last forever. Unfortunately, AFL, everyone's got an expiration date. So make the most of it while you're around, and who knows what will come from it. So I think that kind of set us back into our ways and just kind of like that belief of just saying, look, every day we go out, let's just try to be better than the day before and see what we can do, and hopefully something special comes from it.
I'm sure it will. And, thank you very much for joining us today, Mason. We would have liked to see you play against the Tigers tonight, but we'll especially be looking forward to seeing you back on the turf in the future. Let's hope it's sooner rather than later. But, thanks for joining us, Mason.
No worries, boys. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you very much to Mason Cox for joining us. I love that. I mean, it's sad that, they only played one game and unfortunately it was against my doggies. I know you're lining up for it.
Yeah, it was. That was like an episode 2 joke. Looking back at it, remember, I think we had a running joke where it was like,
yes,
who lost last week? Who lost to the Lions last week? That just came back to me. So there you go. Reminiscing about the past.
How close are the dogs to the bottom of the table? They'd be
second last.
Yeah, so you got to have to look at that for the rest of the season, I guess, or at least until this thing ends.
But it's usually like that anyway because we're alphabetically we're at the bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're used to it.
It's so terrible having it.
That happens though. You lose one game to a good team, so what? But I mean, it's a bit different when you lose 2 games in a row, Gusman.
Well, we might.
Yeah.
Maybe in 6 months.
Yeah, the Warriors losing 2 games in a row and finishing in second last as well.
I was thinking about a different team. A team with a bit more expectation on them, Gusman.
Yeah, well, look.
Not bothered.
Look, I'm not bothered. I mean, I was a bit disappointed about the second game from the Roosters, but I mean, the first one, I didn't expect them to win because, I mean, we haven't won a first round.
To win.
We've lost 5 out of the
game.
8. No, I do, but like we've lost 5 out of our 8 first round games in the last 8 years. So
what about round 2?
Round 2 was disappointing, but I mean, we really should have won that by 20 points.
And it's not going ahead, but round 3
should have won it by 20 points.
Yeah, we bombed about 5 tries.
They did that Luke Keary try.
Luke Keary dropped it over the line.
He did.
There were 2 really rough, controversial referee decisions.
6 again.
Video referee decisions that I thought could have been 50-50. So I think the Roosters got unlucky.
Well, unfortunately, guys, we don't have the time to hear all of Gusman's excuses. Let's start with the AFL. There are a lot, CJ.
Not excuses, but
they're not excuses.
Truth.
They're just reasons why we didn't lose, and it wasn't our fault. Anyway, CJ, it's fine. Just take the joke. Take the hit. Take the hit.
I would.
Let's chat about.
We deserve to lose against Collingwood.
Yeah.
Boys,
anyway,
let's chat about the sport that, of course, Mason Cox is a player of. The AFL, one and done. No fans. CJ, did you watch any of the games in round 1?
I did. I watched it after the fact, but I watched the Dogs Collingwood game. I watched the Richmond Carlton game, which is the season opener. I think I watched a bit of the Hawthorn and Lions game, and I watched a little bit of the Freo St Kilda game.
Yeah, I watched the few too. It was good to have footy back.
I liked it.
Albeit for a brief stint, but it was quite weird. Gusman, same in the rugby league world, as we'll touch on in a second. But there were no fans. There were no fans. Now, watching that first game between Carlton and the Tigers, now that's a game that year to year you expect 90,000 fans to suit up and
especially first game of the season,
don their colours and really sing and get excited about the season ahead. But we just didn't get that this round, CJ.
No.
But what we don't know at the moment is the repercussions of this decision. You know, both leagues, both the AFL and NRL, well, all sports, have spoken about the financial repercussions that could be a possibility as a result of COVID-19. But CJ, I want to pose the question to you, mate. AFL, which
Yes.
clubs are in danger of possibly folding, or is there a possibility of mergers between clubs? Because the reality is, and Gusman, I will throw the same question to you in a second, but there is, or it's almost certain, or it looks very likely that not all clubs will survive the next few months.
Yeah, well, I hope all clubs do. But I think there's definitely the possibility of mergers or relocations is a possibility as well, just from new buyers and things like that. I think if I were to pick some clubs that were potentially on the chopping block.
Let's say three.
Let's say three, okay. I mean, the obvious candidate is Gold Coast Suns. They're the obvious candidate to get the chop. I'd probably say the next ones would probably be Greater Western Sydney.
I'll hold back the tears, but that is very true, mate. I agree with
You're
that.
a long-suffering fan, mate. You know,
Oh.
you've supported them your whole life.
Thick and thin.
Yeah,
Seriously.
exactly. So they're the newest teams.
But that's why they have the most vulnerability because of that. I think they both haven't really established strong fan bases.
Not at all.
The Gold
Neither of
Coast
them.
can't because the Gold Coast is a holiday destination.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, not many people consistently go out to see a team, one, when they don't necessarily live in the Gold Coast or normally,
Yeah.
and two, the Gold Coast don't win games.
No.
So why am I going to go support that team even if I am a Gold Coast local?
Yeah, and also with the Gold Coast, it's a hard one because it's such a spread out, I'm going to call it a city.
Yep.
It's spread across, like, probably how many Ks would you say? 40 to 60 Ks?
I think the area of the
Yeah.
Gold Coast is about 400 square Ks.
Probably, yeah. So it's a huge area that's really spread out.
Yep.
So it's not like Melbourne where there's two stadiums in the middle of the city, but all the Melbourne teams play there.
Yep.
And-
It's too difficult, mate.
It's very difficult. So I think those are the two teams that will probably get the chopping block, will be on the chopping block.
And, well, you've seen it firsthand. You went to was it the prelim or one of the
Prelim.
finals matches a few years ago when
Yep.
the Doggies went all the way?
Yep.
You were down there at Spotless
I
Stadium.
was.
Describe the fan base.
It was all doggies pretty much.
Yep, which is very
which is
disappointing.
very uncommon. and
Uncommon
very
for an away
disappointing.
game.
Yeah.
Is it because the AFL faithful in Sydney have already sworn their allegiance towards the Swans?
I think so. I also think Western Sydney is not a historically big football.
I think they just
Spot.
tried making it work because it was similar to the A-League.
It makes sense.
They brought in Western Sydney, didn't they? Because they were like, look, Sydney's such a big market. We need to make this work. We can't just have one team in Sydney. Anyway.
No doubt.
And
But I think Western Sydney Wanderers is a better...
Well, that,
it suits the demographic of the area.
I also think, and not to be biased here, but I also think Western Sydney is a big rugby league
Oh, no
community
doubt.
as well.
No
So
doubt.
it's really tough to break into a market when there's already a sport that's solidified there.
well, we've also got Macarthur FC coming into the A-League next season, so that's going to add a bit more strain on the GWS.
will
faithful.
they come into the competition now?
I think they will. They have. Well, they're going to.
Well, they might not. Who knows? Everything's up in the air at the moment.
Well,
They might not.
I think
I
they've
hope so.
already pumped enough money in that it's sort of like they've got to.
They've already made. They've
They
already made
might fold
signings.
in a year.
Yeah.
They might fold in a year or something, but I think they'll definitely play. Well, let's hope so. But yeah, I definitely think they'll get on the pad.
We'll see.
Former Raw boy, mate, Tommy Orr.
Yes.
He signed with Macarthur.
did.
What a
So he
terrible
was one of
first
those times.
signing.
He needs.
I'm
That's
sorry.
not bad.
I'm sorry.
Although
He's
it's pretty bad
well
Central
past
Coast.
his peak.
Yeah, no doubt. But my third team would probably be North Melbourne.
Yeah, I was
they've been the team that they'd probably be the only Melbourne team, I would think. None spring to mind straight away. They would be on the chopping block. They've probably got some of the least history, I would say. I know I'm probably biased in that. But probably some of the least success and probably the worst fan base in terms of numbers.
That's the thing. History is so important when these decisions are going to be made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Carlton and stuff, they're not performing well at the moment.
No.
But historically, they are a massive club. So they're not going to go. But I agree with you 100%. Let's hope Tasmania. I think
Yes.
they'll probably get the nod.
I think they'll get...
They already split some of their games in Tasmania already. So
They
I
do.
think that's just something that's waiting to happen.
to me, it makes sense.
It's a matter of when, not if, in my opinion. But we were debating in the car about it. What's their name going to be?
Oh, I'd love to see Tassie Devils. Obviously, that's the Shield
It's
team.
the Shield team. So
But I would love to
it's
see
perfect.
that.
It's perfect.
It's absolutely perfect for them. I would love to see that.
The Hobart Hurricanes.
Okay, too many. I think it's got to be Tassie because,
think it's
I think
Tassie.
you split your games between Launceston and Hobart.
Tassie's team.
Yeah,
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's how you do it. And you could probably just play them at like UTAS.
Yep.
And what's the other one? Where did
Blundstone.
they? Blundstone. Yeah.
It's
So I'll probably play there.
And something else you brought up in the car on the way to UQ to do this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Signings.
Yes.
Some of the allure that these players would have in the AFL to maybe return home to Tasmania, having played there through the grassroots ranks.
Yes.
One player comes to mind, Jack Rewalt.
Yes.
He
100%. He wore his Tasmania jersey from his under-18s to the All-Star game.
He did, yeah. So
He wore it, so
it's
he
very
wants to
important to
play
him,
there.
mate. He wants to see it happen. And if it does, he gets told, hey, we'll offer you the same amount of money. The reality is you might not win the same amount of premierships. But
you
can
retire
play,
there.
But you can play for Tassie. You can retire as a foundation member of Tasmania's AFL club.
It'd be so cool. I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see it. And
Yeah.
hopefully players follow. And it could be quite good for the league too, because you could see some of this talent dispersed.
Exactly. And you could see also a lot more money pumped into Tasmanian football and a lot more development. It's just another area that, you get academies there.
Yeah. Well, they
Sort
have
of.
a pretty strong footballing contingent anyway.
Huge.
It's
Huge.
a passionate fan base. So
It's a cricket and AFL.
yeah.
It's like a Victoria.
They
mini
do-
Victoria.
They do have an NBL team coming
Yes.
in next year. But again,
They
for the
do.
most part, it's an untapped market.
Yeah.
So come on.
Come on, make it happen.
Let's see. It's going to be a
Move
big
North
fun
Melbourne
about-
down there.
Exactly.
Do it.
Gusman, fanging that same question your way, mate, the NRL. Which three teams are in the most danger when it comes to folding or possibly merging?
It's interesting. I don't want these teams to fold because in my own mind, I have three sides that I'd prefer to be out of the competition.
Which ones do you think realistically?
Realistically, I think Manly, I think Cronulla,
Ooh.
and I think maybe Balmain or Penrith.
Ooh, we
Ooh,
disagree
we
big
had
time.
different
We-
opinions.
So-
we had a unanimous.
we had Manly. We all agree on Manly.
Yeah.
Why is that, Gusman? Why do you think Manly? Because historically they are another strong club, but they just don't have the money.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Manly in the news a lot recently over the stadiums, how they can't afford to play in stadiums, how they can't afford players, and yeah, they're on real thin ice already. Like despite this happening, so if this coronavirus wipes out 2020, it could be the end of the Manly Seagulls because they are on really, really thin ice. I think Cronulla are also very close. I didn't agree with it earlier on, but Cronulla, it's been reported that Cronulla are in a similar situation as Manly. They're running out of money pretty much. They've had to close about 5 of their leagues, clubs or whatever.
How do they have that many clubs?
Or they bring in
What?
money from 5 different locations or something. I read,
weird.
and
Actually, sorry.
they've all closed, so they can't bring any money in. They're not making money, and they're not a very rich club to start with. They haven't got big backers or anything like maybe the Roosters or Melbourne or Brisbane have. So they're in real trouble.
I'll just
as
jump
well.
in for a second, mate. Leagues clubs. They are so
Yeah.
important for clubs at the moment, and that generates most of their revenue,
Yeah.
or a lot of their revenue.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that they are forcefully being closed due to government policies, some of these clubs just can't stay up.
No
Yeah.
more Dragon Link.
I
No
mean,
more Dragon Link.
that's why
That's the
why I
worst
sort
thing.
of that's why I sort of mentioned Cronulla because I don't think they have anyone really like to fall on. I mean, you look at the Roosters and you look at Brisbane. I mean, the Roosters have Nick Politis, of course. He's worth a lot of money. So, and I mean, they're a foundation club, so they're
Look, we get
not
it.
going to go
The
out.
Roosters aren't going to go
Yeah,
out.
no,
It's okay.
I'm just making that
No,
like,
we don't
and
think
they're
He's getting
they're-
self-conscious because there's a page on Facebook which is
No.
called Relocate the... I think
never
they call
gonna-
it the Perth Roosters.
Yeah,
Something like
it's
that.
never gonna
Or
happen.
Relocate the
It's never
Sydney
gonna
Roosters. And the big picture is they don't have fans. They don't have fans, and they don't have...
They do, but
Gusman, and they don't
Breathe.
Again, this is their opinions, not mine, mate. And they don't have academy systems. They just poach. So let's move them to Perth because apparently the NRL is trying to make Perth happen.
Mm-hmm.
Evident through the NRL nines. But anyway, Gusman,
yeah, well, I guarantee
your
that. I guarantee that page was. I guarantee that
Punkies.
page was started by a South Sydney fan, and they're
fan.
they're just jealous
South.
that we're catching up to them, and that they'll only win one premiership
No one's attacking
for
you
the
here, mate.
next 40 years.
All right.
Anyway,
the Sharkies, they are under a bit of threat. I will say that because they are relatively new. Not like no.
yeah,
But I think they came in on the stroke of the millennium.
yeah,
Something like
80s.
that. Or maybe
Yeah, I thought it
30
was like
years ago.
86 or
And
something.
they
Um,
merged. They merged.
Yeah,
Fair.
yeah. So they're in there as well, and then I said Penrith, because apparently they're going to lose about $40 million. decided to. They picked the perfect time to do this as well, to upgrade facilities.
Oh my god!
So they started upgrading. I think their training grounds and stuff, all those facilities, and that's cost him a lot of money. And now this is hit. They've lost about $5 million because of because they can't play any home games, so they can't make any money.
There's no income.
Leagues clubs are closed. They're in real trouble as well. If I was going to choose my own three, I would go the Warriors, I'd go the Gold Coast, and I'd go South Sydney because I hate them.
Yeah, well, we both said Warriors and the Titans.
And Manly.
Yes, I think the Warriors have a good someone backing them up. I think they have a rich backer.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to go under.
No, they have multiple owners.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
They have like
not
some.
that bad,
I think
actually.
they've got
It
like
is
an
because-
engineering firm or something, like some big company that backs them. So I think they're fine.
Actually, he mentioned Penrith Stadium just before. Just a story. I want to go off on a tangent quickly. It was about 2008. I was about 8. And Dad said, do you want to go see Penrith play the Warriors? And I said, I'm actually okay. He took Ryan and Jessica.
This is when you were living in Western Sydney, right?
Yeah, when I was living down
Yeah.
Sydney. And I said, no. He took Ryan and Jessica. I stayed home with Mum. And I stayed home to play rugby league live.
Oh my god! Did you put yourself in the Penrith Stadium? Could you do that in that game?
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I think you can create your own like
Dream teams?
your own character as well. So you can put like
Finn Morton in
make
the game.
yourself
Oh,
yeah,
mate,
and
down
make
the
yourself
medalist,
like
99, 99, 99
make yourself
stats.
really big as well, like full
Definition on
sleeve
the muscles.
tattoos.
It's like 2K, like 12.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was always one of those kids who just couldn't handle a loss either. Like if I somehow lost on a game.
Yeah.
No, was not. So it was a lot of rage quitting and a lot of undefeated seasons. God, I'm good.
You're saying you
I,
were like that?
Yeah, I was like that.
Yeah, you still are. I used to play Rugby League 3. So that was before Rugby League Live, I think. And I played that on the Wii.
Yeah.
Now, you guys remember the Wii.
I love the Wii.
And that's like you
you
have
have to pass
this
it like
yeah,
this?
you had to pass it like that, or I actually
Okay,
did
Sorry,
like
okay,
he's
sorry.
flick-
This
he's
is
flicking
audio.
his hand.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I realized we did
I
that.
actually actually did the like I was throwing a football.
You moved the Wii remote like you were passing the
Yeah,
footy.
exactly. And it was really fun to
Did
play
they-
on the Wii. And I was also a sore loser
Were there,
because
like,
I
mini
always
games?
played as the Roosters and
Yeah.
I couldn't handle losing.
All right, I'm going to pitch something here. Rugby league, let's make a new one. Put some mini games in there. You know, you've got
A new rugby league.
Bashaseki. You've got
Okay.
Fitness Scandal.
Ah, yeah.
Career challenges.
No, it's
Good word.
We Sport Resort.
Sport resort. Yeah, it's just the rugby league resort.
one of my most treasured accomplishments so far in my 20 years on this planet was when I was about 14 and I decided I'm going to take it on. I pulled out the Xbox, hadn't played it for years, and I played Rugby League Live 2 on the hardest difficulty for 80 minutes.
Oh,
And I played as
my God.
and I played as the North Devils
Okay, yeah.
against
the local.
and against the my
You
former
played for
club.
them at the time, probably.
No, I played
Oh,
there when
you
I was
used
about
to play
10.
there, yeah, okay.
I was well into Union then. But
Yeah.
anyway, played as the North Devils against the Kangaroos.
Did you put a rat's tail on
Oh,
your plane?
right.
No. This is me controlling the whole team and
Okay,
stuff.
yeah.
And I won. But it was incredible because like the defense is so bad from both the computer and myself
Yeah.
that I think the score was like 200 to 50
In 80 minutes.
in 80 minutes. And it was like,
Yeah, no, I was the same. I remember watching a game like live. Cronulla beat the Roosters, so of course I was really annoyed with Cronulla at the time. So I went on to Rugby League 3, and I decided to play an 80-minute game against Cronulla, the easiest difficulty, and I beat them by about 400 points, and that made me feel a lot better.
There you go. I remember playing, was it Wallabies Rugby Challenge? What was that one?
yeah. I love
was
that.
so good.
No, they've released 3. Number 4 is coming out soon.
Yeah.
But they haven't got full licensing. That's always been its issue.
That was such a good game.
It's a good game actually.
Really good.
Well,
I
I
remember playing against the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah,
all
that's
the
the
time.
year it
That was
came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
That
mean,
was awesome.
they've got like the new Ashes cricket out, don't they?
I don't know,
think I saw something by cricket.com. They were actually commentating
They simulated.
a game. Yeah, they simulated a game.
Aussie New Zealand.
And New Zealand
good.
smashed Australia.
They sure did,
And
but
they commentated on it, and I thought that was very
I
funny.
remember I used to have, I think it was like Ashes 10 or like Ashes 08 or something like that. I used to have it on like the 360 or something like that. And it was so good. And I remember Ian Botham Beefy was like one of the commentators, and Shane Warne was as well.
Yeah.
And like for the challenges, it was just
I just love like
so
even, like,
good.
AFL Evolution. I love the
Oh my
commentators
God.
and just how bad the commentating is. Because
Get BT on it.
no, because you start the game and it's like, welcome to the Gabba for
Yeah.
the Brisbane
Insert-
Lions
insert name. versus the Western Bulldogs
versus the Greater Western Sydney
Giants.
Giants.
Yeah, get BT on that. Have you guys been keeping track with BT's
isolation updates, mate. They are good fun.
They are great. Have you seen his shed?
Yeah.
We're talking about Brian Taylor here.
It's better than Bunnings.
It is very good.
No, it's he is the AFL commentating, isn't he?
The GOAT.
But we were watching it the other week actually. He does his roaming Brian, and we were watching like his Orazio Fantasia, and we were watching like his top 10 moments and whatnot. And he's pretty funny.
He's a funny guy.
If I were a player, which I'm far from, I would find that incredibly awkward, Gusman.
I feel like you have to play along with it. I feel like that's how you become a fan favorite, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you need some of that. Need your face on the TV if you want to get famous. So.
Exactly.
Don't be called Orazio Fantasia.
Orazio. It worked well for
Or
him.
actually, yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Lloyd.
Or if your name's Angus Bryan and you're entering the AFL, do you change your name to Orazio Fantasia?
There you
Maybe.
go. The second.
I don't know. I think there's some merit there.
I think so too.
Anyway, boys, the other big news coming out of this week was, of course, the Olympics postponed by at maximum a year, but it looks like it's going to be in 2021.
Tokyo
at the
2021.
best. No, it's actually still being called Tokyo 2020, which is quite weird, but it doesn't surprise me because of the marketing they've done and
They've got
think
the
about
shirts.
it, the merchandise.
I mean, it would put Japan into financial ruin if this thing didn't go ahead because, I mean, most Olympics, I don't think you make money from Olympics. I think a lot of countries
tourism
actually
and stuff.
lose money from, like in long term, they might make money from tourism, but I mean, short term, the actual infrastructure and everything costs an absolute buttload.
Yeah. Do you reckon they made, speaking of infrastructure, do you think they made a sign similar to what we have on the way to the Gold Coast?
Oh, that was shocking.
They wish,
Didn't
man.
that cost $1 million for that?
It costs a stupid amount, and no one can read it.
It's more than that. You have to be like
On the
5K
side.
away.
Well, you
on
just
a
have to be
mountain.
on the side of
In
the
the
road.
desert.
Like, you need to be broken down.
Yeah, but
like,
it's on a
the side.
highway. It's in the middle of a highway, so you
Yeah.
can't see it. So
It's horrible.
But no,
Stupid piece of infrastructure.
what we haven't seen yet with
Apparently
the
they're
Olympics.
relocating it, by the way.
Oh, thank
I
God.
hope they do.
Hope so. Hopefully,
they
just
do.
That's the one thing they relocate from the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Not any of the sports teams.
No.
Let's relocate
This
this
stupid
rubbish
sign.
infrastructure.
Exactly. No, but I don't think what we haven't seen yet with the Olympics is how the athletes are reacting in terms of they spend 4 years, albeit with the Commonwealth Games in between, peaking or aiming to peak for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Now that they're at their peak, how do they maintain that momentum of performance
It's going to be
for
tough.
a year?
It's gonna
Very
be
tough.
And there's also older athletes who maybe I can only go into 2020. 2021 might be a year too much.
Mm.
Yeah.
Young-
What if you get injured training?
That's what I mean. It's I don't know. The fallout of it is going to be financially, could be quite significant. Performance-wise, could be quite significant. I don't know. Let's wait and see.
It'll be a weird one. It'll be a very, very weird.
Very strange. Very
But I'm
strange.
keen for it. But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there, boys. Thanks to Mason Cox. Thanks for joining the show. We didn't have a lot to talk about this week because obviously nothing is going on.
Yeah.
But I feel like we got across a good amount. But yeah, thanks again to Mason Cox, the lanky American. Not really lanky, just tall.
He is pretty lanky. I
You
think
reckon?
being tall makes you lanky.
It's hard to
Most
put
of
on
the time.
weight, I can imagine. Not that I'm tall. I would never understand, but
Exactly. What I'd give to be 6 foot for a day.
what do I give to be 5'11", mate, at this point?
Modest goal.
Modest goal. Mate, you got to make achievable goals, all right? Get like extra thick heels or something like that
Don't
on
just-
your RMs or
That
something
dude's,
like
that dude's breaking like 7 foot. And
Can you just give me like 10 centimetres?
Yeah, just
something.
lend
anything.
me 10
Give me 11
centimeters.
centimetres, make it an even 200
Yeah,
centimetres.
lend me 10 centimeters for like
Please.
a day. Just
Please, just, I would really appreciate it.
yeah.
Would really
Surely,
appreciate
surely it's just unfair. Like when you're playing against Mason Cox, you're like, come on, like this dude's like, he's 7
It
foot.
just
Like
reminds
how am
me
I
of,
supposed to
like,
mark this
an
guy?
older brother like holding something above you and you just go,
Well,
Yeah.
who's the short midfielder who plays for the Doggies? Where's the headgear?
Caleb Daniel.
Imagine him trying to
He plays
mark.
defence now.
Does he?
Oh.
Yeah, he plays
that-
centre half back.
Imagine that matchup.
They're just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
No, it's just like the complete opposite. Like shortest player in the competition,
That's
tallest
crazy.
player in the competition, probably.
cruelty.
It is cruel.
No, he was
It is
a good.
cruel.
He was a good chat though. Hey.
Yeah, he was very good. If you haven't already, go follow us on all of our socials. Our Instagram is @_beyond the sidelines_. Our Facebook is beyond the sidelines. Our YouTube's beyond the sidelines as well. So go subscribe to us. Go follow us on everything. Like our pages. If you haven't listened to all of our other episodes as well, they're anywhere you can find your podcast. Where can you find one, Gus?
Spotify.
Where can you find one?
He seems to be
No,
handling it quite well.
you're going.
Apple Podcasts as well. You can check that out. Stitcher. That's another one, isn't it?
Yes, it
Pocket
is.
Cast. Oh,
Yes, Google Podcasts as well.
Yeah.
You're on a roll.
Are we on Google Podcasts?
Yes, we are.
There you
Are we
go.
on
Learned something today.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you did.
Today was a good day.
Yeah, you were thinking of something.
I was thinking of another one, but I can't remember what it's called. I was going Chromecast. Is that a thing?
Chromecast is when you want to.
Yeah, that's
when you want to like Bluetooth stream your phone to your TV.
To your TV, yeah.
That's I had
we're
that in
not
my
there.
head. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can Chromecast
you
us.
you can.
You can.
Feel
It's
free.
so
We won't
cool.
stop you.
We will not stop you.
Welcome us into your living room.
Please.
Yeah.
Even if you want, leave it running.
Go on.
We should make a playlist actually,
Yeah, we should.
so it plays all of our episodes because there's nothing that people want more than to listen to us
I mean-
on repeat. You got a good 35 hours plus of content.
And I mean, if we
Jeez.
are going to be in isolation,
Mm.
then you're going to need to be doing something to fill that time.
You got some time.
There's worse things than to be listening to what we have to say.
Is there? Are there really worse things?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know what you want me to say here. Also, something worth mentioning is if you want us to speak to anyone in particular, shoot us a message.
Please, if you want to say anything, just shoot us a message. We always reply.
Say g'day. Campbell doesn't have many friends anyway, so
Exactly.
I'm sure
it's
he'd...
the only interaction I get.
Haha.
Damn.
Another clanger
Damn,
by
boy.
Finn.
Yeah.
You're feeling a bit sad now, mate.
Yeah, I think I'm.
That's it. I'm done.